Moving on, we're going to move on to Shannon Wells. Shannon Wells is the Executive Director at the Lawrence Humane Society in Lawrence, Kansas. Shannon, you are new in your role at the Lawrence Humane Society, and 2 months into the job, you got dealt a whole new challenge with COVID-19. Tell us how things are changing in Lawrence.
Yeah, I sure did. But I think it's kind of shaken things up in a lot of good ways for us. So our operations have definitely changed. So here are a few things regarding animal services. We closed our building to public walk-in traffic, and this was really done to help the staff feel safer regarding exposure. And we moved to curbside services. We only take in owner surrenders on an emergency basis. If we feel like the animal or the person at the home is at risk, then we accelerate bringing them in. All other owners are directed to other rehoming resources they can use on their own. We continue to take in animals from animal control, and they have reduced some of their call capacity as well. Animals are moved to foster upon completion of stray hold, and this has really allowed us to operate with reduced staffing on site each day. It also ensures that we have space to continue to take in the animals that need to be at our shelter because they don't have other options. Since we started moving animals into foster care, we have sent 214 animals. So at any given time, we usually have about 90% of our population in foster care. And our foster caregivers are given the option to adopt their pet if they choose, or we collect behavioral information about how the animal's doing in the home. We use that to market the animal online, and adopters are matched with pets using video conferencing. Once they're matched, we're using electronic paperwork, and we're collecting payment online, and they receive their pet curbside. As far as staffing goes, we did go to the 2-team staffing model. It just helped staff feel safer because there were less bodies around. And we knew that it would brace us for the potential if someone got sick on one team, that we would still have people to provide essential care. Unfortunately, we did decide to suspend our public spay-neuter services, which is kind of a painful decision because in particular, we just launched a trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release program. And so I can just hear the babies being born out into the world. And feeling like we're not getting ahead of that is a little bit frustrating. But our problem is that we do not have great access to our surgical supplies, particularly gloves right now. And then finally, fundraising has taken a hit for us. We've had to move to virtual events, which is kind of unknown territory for us, and get creative with some new ideas for virtual fundraising.
That sounds like an incredible amount of change in about a 6-week time period. Getting 90% of your animals in foster when you had a fairly minimal foster program to start with is incredible. So tell us about a few of the silver linings and some of the positive things that have emerged from all of this.
Yeah, I feel a little bit guilty kind of being excited about what we're doing because I know that I would never wish this pandemic again, but I can't deny that there's been some really great things that have happened for us. So when I took over the executive director role in January, I pretty quickly identified that expansion of our foster program was a big necessity for us. Historically, foster homes were used for neonates, sick or injured, or sometimes we'd send animals out for a week of socialization. But animals were always brought back to the shelter before they were made available for adoption. Foster families did not promote their own pets that they were caring for. So, for me, the reason why foster is so important is because it expands life-saving capacity. And we just moved into a new shelter with 80 less kennels, so we were feeling the pinch. And also, of course, caregivers can give us the best information about the animals, better than what we could do at the shelter. How the animal behaves at the shelter doesn't really matter so much as how they behave in a home. And so we have found that it's led to better matchmaking for us since we've expanded our program. And then, of course, foster homes are really the least stressful way that we can house animals in our care. I mean, it's the best possible option that we have for them. And then beyond the benefits to the animals, we feel like the foster caregivers can expand our reach to their personal networks, and that results in increased adoptions. So for me, looking at this situation, I'm thinking like, why do we not want long-term foster placement? And I think the answer is because it's change. And COVID-19 really forced change in a quick way for us. And so it blew past barriers that we were facing. You know, we turned and immediately asked our community to help us care for animals for an undetermined length of time. And, you know, faced with uncertainty, we kind of braced ourselves for the possibility of low staffing due to possible illness or low adoptions with high intake. It forced us out of a rut and into creative, out of the box thinking. You know, that saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, that proved true for us. It's been exciting and, dare I say, kind of fun to watch people on my team emerge as rock stars, you know, with their ingenuity and their willingness to try new things. It's been kind of exciting for me to stand back and watch. The outpouring from the community has allowed us to not only ensure the best possible care for our animals, even the hard ones we thought were borderline euthanasia cases, but it's also allowed us to bring animals in from other communities who are struggling to save lives in their rural shelters and rescues. We've had more families that want to foster than we have animals for. And so we've kind of conservatively started bringing more animals in, knowing that if we didn't, they didn't have options in their own area. So it's undeniable that in communities where animal shelters are allowed to be progressive, like we've been lucky enough to have, that COVID-19 is the best thing that could have happened to the animals in our care. We as humans will remember it as this awful pandemic that crippled the economy and cost lives. But dogs and cats will talk about it for years to come as like a heyday of when they got to go to a really great home and stay with really cool people who had lots of time for them. So, you know, for us, there have definitely been struggles, but I feel guilty, like I said, but I see more good than bad in just the scope of animal sheltering. I think our biggest struggles have been revenue, um, and just making staff feel safe. And you know, we're taking those things day by day, and we're trying to use the same sort of creativity that we have put in place that has gotten us this far, and you know, kind of settling into our routine and trying to see what ways that we can bring in more revenue.
That's awesome. It sounds like a quite a transition over there. Super quickly, what do you hope are the changes that are here to stay for good?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the impact of what we've seen from fostering is what I hope becomes lasting. I sort of see the future of sheltering as hybrid operation, where shelters are there and they're kind of a safety net for animals that need emergency housing, but that our sort of first line or our first pathway for these animals would be moving them into foster homes straight away and then doing adoptions from foster for as many of them as we possibly can. I just think undeniably what we're seeing is that that's the most comfortable, most informative, most humane way that we can house these animals. And if we do it right, we can retain a lot of these foster homes that we've recruited in the process. So I think we have to be intentional about not allowing barriers to be put back up when we return to quote unquote normal. We need to
Awesome.
redefine our new normal. And I think that we have to hold each other responsible as an animal welfare community for keeping that change in place.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining us and for the great, amazing insights.